And thank you all for coming here tonight to this great event. To the best of my knowledge, this will be the only time we have all 5 candidates together in one spot, so you guys can take a good look and decide. And for those of my fellow Butler Countyans that are here, I would encourage you to make a decision and reach out to your state central committee people, Gary Cates and Patty Alderson. For the rest of you, you all make a decision and do the same thing. We're here to inform, and we're here to try to make things happen. But why Butler County, guys? Come on, this is a very special place. We had the Bush rally in Butler County, over 50,000 people at Voice of America Park, and it was a vote plurality in Butler County that gave George W. Bush the presidency in both of his years. We delivered a larger vote plurality for President Bush than any other county, and we have continued to do that ever since George W. Bush. So Butler County matters. A few other things about Butler County, guys. Home of the former Speaker of the House of the United States of America. Butler County. Butler County, boyhood home of our brand new elected Senator J.D. Vance. Woo! Get ready to stand for this one. Home of our most beloved Supreme Court Justice Sharon Kennedy. We got time. We got time. And listen, there's 2 people that go out of their way every day to make sure Butler County continues to deliver. It's our Executive Committee Chairman, Chairman Todd Hall, and our Central Committee Chairman, Chris Wennerberg. And it is so good that it's going to be here at Premier, a shooting range. By the way, opening a brand new bar. This may be the only place in Ohio where you can get a drink. Well, you can't shoot after you've had a drink. They have it all figured out, but you can go to the shooting range and get a drink. And I would like to thank Gloria Kirker. I wanted to make sure I said her name right, because she had a great idea. If this isn't settled by Friday, you guys can come back here and have a shootout. Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, I'm going to recommend that to Merritt and Stevens. No, I did not say that. So I've got now the tough job of trying to introduce all the elected officials. So I'm just going to try to go by, and I'm not going to do all the local guys, just county and above. But if I miss you, just raise your hand. Our newest state rep, Adam Matthews. I see Judge Rob Lyons back there. Oh, I do have one to stop. The Greek goddess of Northern Ohio, Zoe Romanchuk, is here. My beloved friend and the guy who stands with me in the Business First Caucus every day, Senator Mark Romanchuk from Mansfield, Ohio. Ron Mack, former state rep and senator?
No,
state rep. Okay, Ron Mack. Karen Cates, former state rep, senator, township trustee, and current state central committee member. Bruce Rogers, county commissioner. Our fiscal officer. In the back. From John Bader's office, Ben Taylor. State Representative Rodney Creech. I know I saw Judge Jennifer. Oh, there she is. Jennifer McElfresh is here. Did I miss anybody? Oh my gosh, my favorite treasure in the whole world, Nancy next. With that, I have the distinct honor of turning it over to a local elected official, Ann Becker, and Ann is the epitome of what a local elected official should be. She puts the taxpayer dollars first in everything she do, and I'm glad that she took my spot. Westchester Township Trustee.
So I'm really
really excited about this tonight. We have an opportunity. This is your only opportunity to hear from the 5 candidates who are going to run the Ohio Republican Party. And why is that important to us here in Southwest Ohio? Well, we bring Ohio the votes.
That's
down
true.
here in Southwest Ohio. Hey guys, we bring Ohio the votes down here.
That's true.
So we just wanted to get to know you, get to know your philosophies, hear a little bit about what you want to do for our party, what you want to do for our grassroots, because it's important to us. We are political machines here. Conservative values, good politicians are important to us, particularly here in Butler County, particularly here in Westchester Township. So I have the honor of kind of moderating a little bit. I'm going to introduce each one of you. Gary, can we get a round of applause again for Gary Cates? Gary is the reason.
Yeah.
This is Gary's idea.
There you are.
You look good, Gary. But Gary wanted to share this with us and just to engage all of us so we know the people that want to run our party. I think it's a great idea. So the format tonight, I'm just going to do a little quick introduction, introduce each one of them. I'm going to have a seat. They're going to come up here and talk to you a little bit about their philosophy, a little bit about what they want to do with the party, and just think about it. Think about maybe some ideas which one of these guys becomes chairman. Maybe you can share a little bit of your thoughts with them. And then after the event's over, we'll break up again and you can check in with them, ask your individual questions, chat with them a little bit more. I'm sure some of the things they say might provoke some thoughts. So let's get started. We'll do it in alphabetical order, and of course, ladies first. It worked out really good, Jean. Good job. Jean Anderson is our first candidate. Let's get a round of applause for Jean. She's the former mayor of Vermillion, Ohio. She's really passionate about mental health in her county of Lorain. She's a member of the Lorain County Republican Central Committee, and she is a candidate for Ohio Republican Party chairman. Jean, let's hear it.
Are we able to put this
12
anyplace?
minutes.
So yeah, we're gonna do 12 minutes per speaker. It's up to you, Jean. Do you want me to help you with the clip? You good?
No, that's okay.
Use the mic.
Well, I too would like to thank Gary, now wherever he went, for planning and hosting this meet and greet, which gives all candidates for chair and members an opportunity to come together, speak about our understanding of the job of chair, listen to members, and then hopefully be available after the meeting to mingle and ask questions of one another. As a starting point, I have a true life-shaping story that will give you an idea of where I came from and who I have been all of my life. I recognize that I have not been well known in the state, perhaps in my area more. But I think this story is a good indicator. 1 month before I was born, my mother had a severe brain aneurysm. My dad, who was a World War II veteran and had just begun his career as a restaurant owner, stood outside my mother's hospital room, listening to the team of doctors discuss my mother's prognosis. The doctors decided that they could keep her comfortable because they saw little or no hope for her life. After my dad listened to them, he stepped into the group and he said, "Gentlemen, you are all great doctors, but you are not God. I have a 4-year-old son at home and a child my wife is carrying. They both need their mother, and her life is not over until God calls her. So you're all fired, and I will find a doctor that believes he hasn't lost the battle before it starts. You're excused. Thank you very much." My dad found a doctor who fought to win. My mom lived a beautiful life managing her disabilities. My dad went on to own 7 restaurants in northern Minnesota, a very successful businessman and highly respected city and community leader. And I was his shadow. My mother outlived my dad and lived with us for the last 13 years of her life until she died at 97 years young. What does this story teach us? Don't be too quick to throw in the towel. Don't be afraid to start over with a winning team. And faith matters. Now, that's who I have been all of my life. Moving on with what I know from what I have read now, all four of you gentlemen, Dale, Alex, Jimmy, Brian, have professional resumes that I cannot begin to compete with, and I applaud your political involvement over time. And I'm really honored to be here with you tonight. However, we have a fifth candidate here tonight, and that's me. I consider myself the elephant in the room. For as much as the forums have banned me from participating, the posts from individuals are claiming that I have dropped out, or even while my response to survey questions exist, they are not out in the open for members to see without looking for them. This all seems very strange to me, coming from members that want inclusion and transparency. After listening to many members and folks in the general public, I understand that the State Central Republican Committee is at odds with itself. And this trickles down or sideways to affect registered Republicans, independents, and even disgruntled Democrats. We want all of them to come into our lane. I am here to bring unity and cooperation within the Central Committee for the purpose of effecting a positive and successful outcome in 2023 and 2024. I do not have a dog in this hunt. I am not working to give a nod to any special interests, repay favors, or achieve any special status for myself. I will not attempt to run away from my conservative principles. I have lived a life full of activism to affect change. My life is my resume. I believe my years working with Right to Life, Birthright, homeschooling our two daughters in the 1980s, working as a financial manager for a durable medical equipment company, caring for my mother, organizing Vermilion Grassroots, running as an outsider and becoming the first full-time mayor in the city of Vermilion, which is split between two counties. And I asked, does any of the other candidates have the experience governing in an executive role? While working with Democrats and Republicans to move Vermilion forward, for example, working with a Democrat congressman in a bipartisan way for the benefit of our community, and Ohio Rail to obtain a quiet zone through downtown Vermilion, which was the first one in the state of Ohio. Going on to serve on the Erie and Ottawa County Board of Mental Health and Recovery and serving as chair, then serving on the Lorain County Board of Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services. Presently, I have served as a precinct representative. I have organized and launched a Republican organization in Vermilion to pull together two counties, and I currently serve on the executive committee for Lorain County. I am proud that our little corner of the world elected all Republicans this last election. So we've got a little Republican work going on in our city too.
Not as much.
In other words, we contributed to the Republican success in Erie and Lorain counties. That is a very diversified life, and I believe that all of it has prepared me to be your chairwoman. You know, they often say that a business owner is well equipped when he is familiar with all the jobs in his or her company. I have worked with the grassroots and the mayor's office. I have not served as a county chair or the state chair, but I have the tools necessary to be effective. When I ran for the State Central Committee, I supported the reforms outlined by the Promise Keepers. And during the campaign, I learned that thousands of Republicans wanted to see the Republican Party make some changes. Now, however, I am running not as part of the legislative body of the State Central Committee, but as an executive, filling an administrative position. The contrast is very significant. I understand that the position of chair is not legislative. My job as chair in the executive role is to facilitate the meetings according to the bylaws, Robert's rules, proper and respectful decorum, and to ensure that all members have the opportunity to represent the people that they were elected to represent in their districts. Matters on the agenda are motioned, seconded, open for discussion, and this could be a very robust and passionate discussion, and then voted on. It is the body of the members that makes decisions, not the party chair. After a matter has had a fair hearing and voting ends, we move on as one until the matter resurfaces for another hearing. That is how our democratic republic lives on, with order and civility. Power grabs, contentiousness, lawsuits, closed group meetings, and I might add, trying to silence me as the one candidate who actually understands the proper role of your chair, and every central committee's role as well. And my role as chair is not that of a dictator. It is the members of the committee that set the agenda and make the decisions. The culture as you know it, well, it doesn't sound like the transparency you all want. To me, it sounds more like power grabbing. To add a little common sense, I believe that all people want a fair chance. No team or person wants to lose a competition or a game due to a bad or a slanted call by the ref. Losing because somebody had their thumb on the scale only makes people angry and bitter and looking for the first opportunity to get even. This is not good chemistry for the Republican State Central Committee, and the decision will be all of yours to make. Remember, a house divided against itself cannot stand. It might look good for a time, but it will not endure. I also understand how vital it is to raise funds to support and elect Republicans. We cannot and we will not fail at this. Offering my passion, my plans, my ears, and respect for people's voices, our message will resonate far and wide. We all know what people are hungry for, and when they see it, they will support it. We need all donors and in all increments.
Jean, you have about 30 seconds.
I will be the face of a unified party, and we will prevail and I guarantee that Ohio will stay red. I have worked with people from all walks of life at all ends of the age spectrum. Those who are victims, those who are victors, and those that hate me and those that love me. I believe that I am the candidate best suited for the moment to unify our state committee, rally around common goals, speak to the grassroots and the political experts, raise money, and proudly win throughout 2023 and 2024 and far beyond. It is at this point that I pause and ask you to vote for me for your next Republican State Central Committee Chairman. And I thank you very much.
Trying to keep everybody about 12 minutes, so try not to be rude, but we gotta keep everybody's time equal. Our next speaker, our next candidate is Dale Fellows. Dale was a Lake County Commissioner. He was a Lake County GOP Chair for 21 years, and he has a lot of good stories. We were talking earlier, so welcome, Dale.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is very exciting to be here, and I really appreciate the organizers, Gary Case, and everybody else that did this. This is wonderful, and I liked George's idea of having a shootout if we, for chairmanship. I love that. I've won a few awards doing that, so it may not be fair. But anyway, I am very excited to be here, as I said, and I hope you all had a very blessed and happy holiday season. And I can tell you the Fellows family had a wonderful one. We had twin granddaughters born on December 27th.
Oh, wow.
So, and as a proud grandfather, I got the pictures to share with everybody afterwards. So anyone wants to come on up and see those. So I ask for your vote and your support for state chair of the Ohio Republican Party. This is something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time. It's something I've thought about for a very long time. As was mentioned, I've been a party chairman for 21 years, but that's not where the story begins or even ends. But I do believe, as the Boy Scouts do, I was a Boy Scout and a Boy Scout leader over the years, and when I came in today, I wanted to get on the internet, and they gave me the Wi-Fi passcode, which was "Be Prepared." Well, I believe that I'm as prepared as anyone's ever been to be state chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. It's experience, it's a track record of accomplishments, and it's a good temperament that you need to be party chairman. I served on the State Central Committee as well for almost 20 years under mostly Bob Bennett, who was a great mentor to me, somebody that I first met when I first got involved in Republicans when I was a very young Republican in 1979. He was the vice chair of the party in Cuyahoga County, where I lived at the time, before I moved to Lake County a few years after that. And then I went on to become a young Republican president in Lake County a few years after that, and then state chairman of the Young Republicans. So I've been doing that as well as being vice chair of our party for 13 years before I became chairman of the Ohio Republican, of the Lake County Republican Party. And then I've had 42 years as a business owner. And this is a business that we're running. And so you need that experience as well. I mentioned being on the State Central Committee as well. I've also been on the Board of Elections for 26 plus years. And not only that, but I was also elected president of the Ohio Association of Elections Officials, which is kind of rare for a board member. Usually it's a director or deputy director. But I believe that I have those 4 key ingredients to be the state chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. Again, that mixture of experience, a track record of accomplishments, and that right temperament. One of the members of the State Central Committee told me that they believe that I am the right person at the right time. And I liked what they said. That was very, very kind of them. We have a track record in Lake County of winning elections. We are a county, when I first started in that mid-'80s, we had 1 elected Republican countywide, the clerk of courts, and that was it. In 1986, I think it was, we won the coroner's race and thought we died and went to heaven, And the coroner used to say, yeah, okay, somebody got it, right? Our coroner used to say when he'd come in a room, look alive. But anyway, we've taken Lake County from a dark blue county to a dark red county. We now have 17 of the 18 countywide office holders. We've done it with hard work, with perseverance, and with the right mixture of the types of plan that we need to do. And this is something I want to take to the state level. I've talked about this and thought about this for many years. We also have a strong track record of raising money. I'm so excited about the fact of how much money we've been able to raise over the years for candidates and elected officials and our party as well. And in our county alone, I was pleased just recently to get the unequivocal support of this man right here, Ambassador Ed Crawford. Ed Crawford has raised millions and millions of dollars for Republican causes. He's from my county. He's raised it statewide. He became ambassador to Ireland under Donald Trump, and he unequivocally supports me and will support raising money that we need for the Ohio Republican Party. And that's a great combination to have. But taking that county from blue to red, that's what we want to do in other counties and other areas. But we also, in those red counties, I think we can also take them to the next level. Because the ultimate goal to me is to become a permanent majority in Ohio, not just a temporary majority. Those of us who've been around know the ills of what happened in 2006, and we can't have that repeated when we ended up with Ted Strickland as governor, Mark Dan as attorney general, Richard Cordray as treasurer, Jennifer Bruner as secretary of state. That was a disaster, not only for politically, but also for the state of Ohio. And ultimately, that's what we're all about, is having the best government we can have, right? That's exactly what we need to do, and we've got to elect the best people possible. It's one of the mantras we use in Lake County all the time, is when we're recruiting candidates, we're not just looking for the first person that raises their hand to run, we're looking for the best person to govern. We'll get them elected, but we want to get the best person to govern, because ultimately that's what we want to have. We've had a success, not only in Lake County, but we've been successful in our other endeavors that I mentioned before. And having the right temperament means unity, that we can unify this party and get on board. We've got to do that, because we can disagree. It's okay to disagree. In fact, a lot of times we learn a lot from when we have disagreements or differences of opinions with folks. And I'm big on letting folks have the opportunity to say what they have to say, but you do it in a respectful, civil, and orderly fashion. And once everybody's had their say, we get to then decide what direction and plan we're going to have, and let's move forward. And that's ultimately what we need to do. So I believe I have exactly the tools and things that we need to move forward and to make the Ohio Republican Party great. This is the latest headline in Lake County. This was November 9th, the day after the election. As it says, GOP sweeps Lake County races. That's what we love to see. And coming from where we were used to meet in a phone book or a phone booth was our mantra back in the day. That's what we used to talk about, the Lake County Republican Party, when I first got started in it. And now to get to that point, let me tell you, it did take a lot of work and a lot of perseverance, and it was a lot of we. You notice I talk about we all the time. I try not to speak of I, because it wasn't just me. It wasn't an I situation. It's we. And we, together, if we can put together a plan, and I have an outline of a plan that I believe will work. And this plan is based on an 88 county strategy. I've been to all 88 counties over the years. When I was YR state chairman, I traveled all over Ohio to start clubs. We went from 16 clubs and 600 members in the Young Republicans at that time to 44 clubs and 2,500 members. We became a real force. We got behind Bob Taft's run for Secretary of State, because that was a critical race in 1990 to get that apportionment board. And those victories like that paid dividends for many decades to where we are today, like getting that apportionment board back in 1990. And we can do it again. But we as a party have to commit to those young people. We as a party have to commit to Ohio Federation of Republican Women and other affiliated organizations. That's part of our plan. But we've got to be in all 88 counties. Every county is unique. Every county's got different demographics. Every county's got best ways and best practices on how to effectively communicate with their constituents. And we've got to know that. We've got to have a pulse on it. We can't just have those cookie cutter campaigns that we've been sending out from the state party for all these years. My expertise is in printing and advertising and marketing, so I know that. We've got to do a much better job in personalizing our messaging and tailoring it to what's going on in different regions of the state. And all those counties deserve that. We will target and maximize the amount of voters we get registered and the voter turnout. That's going to be a huge thing. When we turn out our vote, and we're very proud of what we do in Lake County in voter turnout, and we need to do that across the state to make sure that we're maximizing votes everywhere. We have to have an urban strategy in the urban areas where we're really getting beat up on. And I coined a phrase in Lake County many years ago when we were still very dark blue. I was quoted in the paper saying, most people in Lake County are Republican, they just don't know it, and it's our job to go out and educate them and show them why they are Republican. Well, we got to take the same approach statewide to all 88 counties, because especially in those urban centers, I know that there's people in those counties that are Republican. The reason I know that is my business is in Midtown Cleveland, downtown Cleveland almost. And I have had friends in the minority community and businesses and other ethnic groups for many, many decades. And they are truly Republican when we talk about politics. And I know how to do it. We did it in Lake County. Let me tell you the numbers in Lake County. We went from Painesville City, which was about a 25% Republican area, that we would get maybe 25% of the vote in that area. We now get 50% of the vote in Painesville. And that's because we didn't just fly in and stop into a black church or a Hispanic church or something like that once every 2 years. We're embedded in their community. We're part of their events. You go to a Freedom Fund banquet in Lake County, which is the NAACP's annual dinner, you'll think you're at a mini Lake, 1 minute already? Oh my goodness. You think you were at a mini Lincoln Day dinner. Oh my gosh, I got so much more to say. Fundraising, we're going to do a tremendous job in fundraising. I talk about making sure that we get the whole Republican family together so that we can effectively coalesce together and build a good strategy. We need to be election strategy. That's why the election background is so special, you know, and so unique and needed. Is we've got to know how to win and get these votes. A plan can fail, but never fail to plan. I've got the skills, I've got the temperament, I've got the background and the experience, and I just need your support and your vote to do this. I hope I've earned your vote. I hope I can count on that, and I am looking so forward to helping out and continuing our involvement with the Ohio Republican Party. God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Goes by quick.
Goes by quick.
Our next candidate is Mr. Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy was a former state senator in the 20th district. He was Senate Majority Floor Leader. That's big time, boss. He serves right now as the Meigs County Chairman only since 2022. So you're,
yes.
Yeah, congratulations. Let's all welcome Jimmy Stewart.
Thank you all for coming out tonight, and a special thanks to my former colleague Gary Cates for helping put this together. I think it was all his idea. Gary and I actually go back quite a ways to when I was first running for the State House, and he was trying to get to a fundraiser for me, and unfortunately his transmission broke out about an hour away, and had to limp back on I-70 driving backwards, as I understand it, in the rain. But ultimately it all worked out, and I was elected to the State House at that time. But tell you a little bit about me. After finishing grad school at Xavier University, just south of here, my first job was in Southeast Ohio. I sold heavy equipment for basically Caterpillar equipment, and my territory was Southeast Ohio. I moved to Athens, the People's Republic as some call it, because it was in the middle of the territory. And when I bought a place to live, and when I did that, I started getting more interested in community issues and paid more attention to that than I did as a college student, and ran for Athens City Council in the most heavily Democratic ward in one of the bluest cities in Ohio. At the time, if you'd asked me how do you win an election, it would have been very, very difficult to explain. But fortunately, the Ohio Republican Party actually had regional campaign schools back then, and they had one in Southeast Ohio, and I went to it and I took notes, and I tailored it to the race and followed through and knocked on the doors and raised the money and did everything necessary in order to defeat the incumbent. And I was the first at that time in 1997, the first and last Republican to carry that ward in over 35 years. A couple years later, ran citywide for Athens City Auditor, essentially the finance director of the city. And same thing, got out early, knocked on doors, did everything we had to do. We were actually outspent 2-1, but we outworked them. And we had a good volunteer base with the Ohio University College Republicans, which I've stayed involved in for now over 25 years, to get young people engaged, that if we don't do that, our party is going to die. But ultimately, we were successful. A couple of years later, with the state house districts being redrawn after the census, ran for the Ohio State Legislature. The district was Athens, Meigs, Morgan, and part of Washington counties. Ultimately, thanks to hard work and dedication and a lot of help from other my friends and colleagues, and future colleagues in the Ohio House, we were able to raise the funds as a team approach to do what we had to do. Ended up winning 58-42, served 3 terms in the House, and then as Sermon went into the Senate and became the majority leader, the majority floor leader. At that time, I represented 9 counties. And as you find out, when you represent 9 counties, you have to deal with 9 Lincoln Day dinners, 9 county fairs, with 9 county parties. And you find out really quickly that not all county parties are created equal. There's a wide disparity of differences among county parties. Some are good at some things, some are good at others, and some aren't really too much good at use at all, unfortunately. Now here in Butler County, you're actually a shining example when it comes to get out the vote efforts, a lot of things that is how to be done right. One of the main reasons I'm running to be the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party is I think that the single biggest area where we can really improve our performance statewide is working with our county parties and our local GOP clubs to try and share best practices among those counties. Similar counties with similar demographics, your large urban counties, your larger suburban counties, your larger rural counties, for example, Tuscarawas or Ross or Scioto. They have their own challenges. Some of your suburban counties used to be very, 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 very red. And now we're seeing encroachment of blue areas in some of those counties, like in southern Warren County. Who would have thought? Democrats in Mason? And now here, this is what we're seeing. And then the smaller rural counties share the best practices on a wide variety of topics, whether everything about campaigns, for example, whether it's social media, whether it's fundraising, whether it's the get out the vote door-to-door efforts, the call centers. Share the best practices among these counties of similar sizes and similar demographics. What worked, what didn't work, what would you do again? If you had to do it over, would you do it differently? Is there a better way to do it? Share it with your colleagues around the state. We have these 4 different groups, as I described, as well as with the local clubs. Share what's working and what's not working. And I guarantee you, and we have 4 county chairs here. I suspect if we all teamed up with some of our colleagues in similar counties, we would all probably learn something, and we could probably share something that worked. In my county, which I just became chairman of after the primary, we actually had a lot of work to do because the governor was one of his, actually in the primary, it was one of his worst counties. I think he only got around 30% of the vote. But we got out and we knocked on the doors. We had the grassroots events that we're all familiar with the phone calls. We used the Athens call center next door and had our volunteers get out and do the work. And it wasn't always popular, it wasn't always easy, but I'm proud to say that he got 78% of the vote. And all of the statewides got between 74 and 78% of the vote. And that's what we're supposed to do after the primary, is unite. And so, to me, that's one of the main things that our state party can do better, which is help our county parties get better, which ultimately lifts the tide for all votes. And so that's where I'm coming from on this. One of the other issues that I think where the state party can really help all of our candidates, all of our counties and our local clubs, is you take social media. Look, I mean, big secret here, we're never gonna get a fair shake from the press. It's not gonna happen. Well, what I've seen from some of our legislative candidates is they've built up their own social media, and some of our county parties have built up their own social media with so many followers that the press almost becomes irrelevant. They can get their message out, and without the help of the press. They can get it out directly to our people. And if we can do that and share that kind of information across the state, we can win. We can win in places, with bigger margins that we've been winning, so that we can, and then we can try some things in the urban counties where we're struggling right now with minority recruitment and get out the vote efforts there. In candidate recruitment, we just had a state senator, African-American state senator in Columbus elected. I went to her swearing in the other night, and at her event, she talked about how the traditional Republican playbook doesn't work in urban areas. And so they threw it out and they made some changes. And as I spoke with her afterwards, this is what we have to share with other candidates in other districts around the state. When you're recruiting candidates, you can say, hey, here's someone that had a similar district to you that never, you would think would have a really difficult time ever winning, but she did it and she worked hard and made the connections and won. So we can do that in other places across the state where we haven't done, where we've really, quite frankly, underperformed. So those are some of the things that I want to work on. And as it relates to social media, the state party should be sending out on a weekly basis, if not daily basis, giving content to our social media at the local level. What is Dave Yost working on this week? What is he doing? What is the governor doing? What is the Secretary of State doing? You share this information because, look, the press is never going to cover it. So let's go around them and do it ourselves and get it out to our message. We can also share information on what the Senate Democrats or what ridiculous legislation they're proposing this week. So you get all that out to our folks and on our terms and not have to worry about a press that's never going to give us a fair shake anyway. And in this whole process, honestly, Butler County is Exhibit A, because you guys have done such a great job. I mean, this is maybe some of you weren't involved, and I suspect many of you were. Back in 2004, as the senator spoke, there were, my recollection is they had phone call centers going on here that they had people waiting in line to come in and make phone calls on behalf of President Bush. That's the type of passion that we need across the state. And if we recruit good conservative Republican candidates at the local level and the state level, it gets our base excited. There are obviously some other issues that need to be addressed with the Republican Party. I think there's some internal issues. Many folks on the Central Committee and I have had in-person meetings and lengthy phone call conversations about clarifying many of our bylaws, doing some improvements as far as clarifying what our various committees that deal with our finances, what they should, what their real responsibilities are going forward. And all of these are things that we've talked about, and I think there's a lot of merit, a lot of good ideas I've heard from committee members as to how to make those improvements, and honestly, we have to do that. One topic, very important, and I think you'll hear from all the candidates tonight, is fundraising. And on the fundraising side, obviously we have our traditional donors to the Ohio Republican Party, and many of these folks are people I knew from my time in the legislature. And it's important that I go out as chairman and meet with all of these folks and rebuild those relationships and continue to make sure that they know where their dollars are going, what specific, if they're going to donate a large sum of money or even a small sum of money to our party, they need to know where these dollars are going and that they're going to make a difference. And so that's, to me, incumbent upon the chairman to go out across the state and even outside the state if necessary to raise those dollars. Ultimately, we have to unite, and the focus has to be, we cannot forget that in 2 years we have Supreme Court races. We only have a 1-seat majority right now. That's not good enough. We have a Supreme Court. We also have, does everyone know the name Sherrod Brown? We have to defeat Sherrod Brown. We have to do our part. Thank you. We have to do our part to win back the United States Senate. We did our part this past year. Some other states could probably learn a lot from us. And having said that, I'm sure there are things we could learn in some areas from some other states. We have to do our part to make sure that Mr. Brown is a former U.S. Senator, and above all, we must get rid of President Joe Biden. So with that said, I appreciate y'all coming out tonight. I know this time of the year there's plenty of other places you could have been tonight and doing any other number of things with your family and your friends. Appreciate you coming out. This is very important, I think, to all of us. And I'd just like to wish you a safe trip back home. And thank you.
There's no place better than a political event. Come on. Thank you, Jimmy. Our next candidate is known to most of us in here in Southwest Ohio, Alex Triantafilu. He is the Hamilton County Chairman of the GOP and one of our go-to media personalities talking about everything politics here in Southwest Ohio. Did you forget something, Alex? Okay. Everybody, Alex T.
Well, thank you so much, Ann, and thanks to all of you for coming out. Senator Cates, Ann, again, for your work here. Chairman Hall, always good to see you and all of you. Especially thank you to the State Central Committee members who made the drive in. I know you have an important decision coming up. I'm going to make it easy for you tonight. But let me begin with the hard part. It's pronounced Triantafilu. Got it? Triantafilu. So anyway, it is good to be with all of you. I want to just share a little bit about who I am. I think I know many of you, but I want you to know a little bit more about my background. You're going to make an important decision on Friday about who leads us. We all care enough about Republicans and our conservative shared cause to be out here, you know, on a cold winter night here in January. So I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm a child of Greek immigrants. I grew up on the west side of Hamilton County in a pretty working class family. My dad came here when he was a child from Greece. My mom born and raised in Greece. We had one bathroom in our house until I was 12, and we added a second one in the basement. My dad was a union auto worker. He worked hard to help his 3 kids go through college. I have 2 older brothers, both are businessmen. They don't want to work for a big company, they want to be on their own. My dad taught us to get out and work hard. My mom showed us the way about values. My parents were married 57 years until my dad passed away. My family and my values stay with me every single day of my life. They drive who I am, they're what I'm about, and it's what I'm most proud of in my life, is that part of me. That's an important part of me as a political leader as well, because I see our Republican family much the same way. Of the 27 people, and my wife Jennifer's here, so I got to give her a shout out. But of the 27 people or so that are on our text group, we don't always get along perfectly. Sometimes we have disputes, sometimes we have arguments, but I'll tell you what, on January 1st, as we often do in my culture, we all get together and we have a shared mission, and that is to love one another and to work toward furthering the aims that we all care about. In my family of 27, every single one of them is a Trumpian Republican, let me tell you. Every single one of them. Anyway, I went to law school. I went to undergraduate school at UC. I went to law school over at Chase in Northern Kentucky. I stayed local for school. I got involved from my very first day as a lawyer working for the county prosecutor's office in politics. When I got there, you did a little politics or you did a lot. I ended up doing a lot. For about 3 or 4 years there, everybody wanted me running their campaign. I knew how to work a campaign from the ground up. I went off for a while, became a judge. I was fortunate to serve as a judge both on the municipal court and the courts of common pleas in Hamilton County. I did that for just shy of 5 years. And then our county chairman was leaving, and he also is in a law firm, and said, hey, I want you to leave being this cushy judgeship. Sorry, Judge McKelfresh. But anyway, you can leave this cushy judgeship, come back into the private sector, and lead our county party, because you are a political junkie in your heart, and you care a lot about our party and its values, so come do this. I thought long and hard about it, and I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I took a leap. It's the best leap I ever made. I love this. For years, I've been 15 years our county chairman in March. A couple times along the way, people have come to me and said, you know, Alex, why don't you think about running for state chairman? I said no. Coaching my son in baseball, being his mock trial coach at St. X High School meant more to me. But this time, things are a little different. My son is 23. He lives in Michigan, unfortunately. But I've got a hugely supportive spouse who said, you know what? This is a chance. Let's do this. Let's go do this statewide. Let's try to win some races statewide. And that's what I'm about. That's why I'm here. I've done a lot of things in Hamilton County. I could spend my entire remaining 6 minutes or so telling you what those are. But I think we've been innovative and different. We've raised over $6 million during my time as county chairman. Last year, we raised $565,000 alone just to win judicial races. I come from a county that, thank you. I come from a county with a big, gigantic blue blob of liberal left-wing socialists right in the middle of it. That makes it hard. But we do really well in the suburban areas. The eight big townships around the city of Cincinnati, we dominate. We win in school board races where we compete and play. We win township trustee races where we do extraordinarily well. But anyway, of the $546,000 we spent and raised last year just for our judicial races, we won a majority of contested judicial races in an otherwise tough year in big cities all across America. We did it talking about public safety. We did it by driving the innovation of something called GOPjudges.com. Half of Hamilton County, all of Hamilton County could say that. That was my idea. We ran with it. We educated our electorate up and down the ballot about how to elect good quality judges. Other innovations, we started a program called She Leads to reach out to female voters. We support the Black Republican Renaissance. I had an African American vice chair as my vice chairman. We ultimately worked with her, raised her a bunch of money, frankly, got her elected as the township trustee in a blue township. We've done all kinds of other things like the Rising Republicans, a group of young Republicans that are super active, meet at our party once a month to advance the cause among young people. So again, I could go on and on, but I've got a vision for our state party. First of all, it begins with fundraising, something I've just talked to you about. I've got the experience, the wherewithal, and the know-how to do that. I've done it. It's hard to go in and ask donors for a lot of money. The first time I asked for $10,000, I couldn't believe it. I told you a little bit about my background because you can imagine growing up the way I did how hard it is to think that somebody would give $10,000 to a politician. But they do it if you ask them the right way, and they believe in your mission and they believe in you as a leader. So I'm ready to lead us. I'm ready to raise the $2 billion a year that it takes to run our state party. I'll work hard to do it, and I'll meet with every donor in the state tirelessly and make sure that we're well funded. We'll do it with low dollar events as well, connecting with donors at every single level so we can create not only money, but energy. Low dollar donations matter in each community. We'll try to do that as well. On the nuts and bolts of what our party's going to do, we're going to build out a world-class infrastructure. I've heard great ideas from some of my opponents. I intend to use some of those. If you decide to select me, I intend to work with each one of them. I'll say to all of you, and I just met Gene tonight, we've had a very respectful campaign. I've enjoyed working with all of you guys and getting to know you. I hope to work with you, whether I'm the county chairman or the state chairman, and I promise I'll do that. But I want to talk just for a minute also about something that's on the minds of every member of the State Central Committee that's here. And several of you are here, you made the drive. Unity matters, it does. We're not always going to be united in our ideas, we're going to have friendly debates, but I've got some nuts and bolts ideas about how to do this, how to try to unite us. I think we should have a State Central Committee orientation process for new members. I think when you get elected to the State Central Committee, sometimes you're just thrown right into a meeting without any sense of what's really happening with our party. In my county, I do a County Central Committee precinct executive training. My friend Dawson Smith's here, I always call him out. Dawson co-taught that with me. We did 3 separate sessions where we brought in our County Central Committee and said, here's how you can be a better member of the County Central Committee. We should do more of that at the state level. We should bring in our State Central Committee members into our party headquarters so they can see it and understand it and become part of the team. I think that makes sense to get us more united. We need to amend the bylaws of the Ohio Republican Party. I know all of us have heard this as we've met with all of you across the state. We need to amend the bylaws, to clarify the bylaws, to make sure that people have more buy-in on how the process works, to make the chairman and the entire organization more accountable. I will be for a bylaws change, a significant review of the bylaws to improve them. We need an audit, and I will support an audit on my very first day as chairman. That's one of the first calls I will make, and that is to make sure that we all have faith that the money coming into the organization is being wisely spent and that we have a clean bill of health financially. So I will be for an audit. Some of the bylaw changes I'm in favor of will include defining more clearly the committee assignments and what the committees each are supposed to do. I will be for naming a committee on committees that actually gets voted upon by the membership before the subcommittees are named. That's what we do in Hamilton County. Again, I looked at my friend George Brunneman, he's on the committee on committees. We did a Zoom this year, said, tell us who you want on the committees. Let's try to make this as small d democratic as possible so every voice is represented on the various committees of the party. We will do other things. We will look very carefully at how we do endorsements. Endorsements are a very dicey issue, very dicey, and I understand that. I want to tell you in Hamilton County what we've done is we largely for many years did not endorse in the primary process. I think 3 times over the course of 14 and a half years did we do it. We did it twice in August. That's something we did do in this cycle, but for years before that, we did not endorse in contested primaries. That may not be the answer statewide, because I can tell you as I've gone around and met with members of the state committee, many people are in favor of the endorsement process. So I think we should have a healthy debate about how the endorsement process works, what it takes to get the endorsement, and who should get it. I think it should take a 2/3 majority of the committee to get an endorsement. That would be one change that I would want to advocate for in our bylaws. So folks, I want to thank you all again for coming out here on a cold winter night and giving us your time. If you have an important decision to make, those of you who are on the committee, I'll promise to stop calling you tomorrow if you guys will. We're going to run through the tape. If you have questions for me, I hope all of you have my number. You can reach out to me. We've taken some significant time to do this. I want to thank again my opponents in this process for the respectful nature of this debate. It is ultimately about defeating Sherrod Brown, defeating Joe Biden, and winning elections up and down the ballot, from the White House all the way down to the local courthouse. That's what our party ought to be about. That's what I'll do if you give me a chance to lead, and I'll leave you with this thought. I've got the experience in a big county to do this job and do it well on the first day that they let me in that party headquarters. I'm ready for this job. I'm going to ask for your support. Thank you all very much.
We have our last candidate tonight, Mr. Brian Williams. Brian is a former state representative. He was on the State Board of Education. He was Summit County Republican Chairman for 7 years, and he is Vice Chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. Are you still Vice Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, still Vice Chair. Mr. Brian Williams.
Thank you. Well, Bill Batchelder told me one time, he quoted Benjamin Franklin, I have to quote him here, he said it's a terrible death to be talked to death, and being the last of 5 10-minute speakers, I hope that, I know you're all political junkies, I heard half the room was introduced as public office holders, I suspect the other half was previous public office holders, so you love this as much as the 5 of us do here, and so I look forward to, I appreciate all of you being here. For those committee members who get a vote on Friday, thank you for coming out to hear us. This is a big blessing for us, because any chance we have to introduce ourselves, to show our enthusiasm for the job, and to 10, 15 people at one time, that is a big blessing. So thank you all for your willingness to be here and size us up. I want to thank my opponents for being in the race. We are all Republicans. We all understand the capitalist nature, that competition breeds excellence, and the best way to get an outstanding next chairman is to have a vibrant debate about who that chairman should be, how that chairman should operate, the skills that they should bring to the job, and the personality and the leading philosophy they should bring to the job. So having additional candidates in the race is a great thing. Also, I want to thank each of them, as Alex and Jimmy have mentioned, I think Dale mentioned as well. We've had a very, I think, cordial and professional competition amongst us, and I can tell you that each of the candidates has pledged to be in support of whoever is elected chairman for the betterment of the Republican Party. And I make that pledge as well. My mentor taught me, used to say it very frequently, politics is a team sport. Anybody who believes that they win as an individual is foolish, they're wrong, and they're dangerous, because they're not going to win for very long. And so this is a full team, and we are all part of the same team, and I think you've heard that from the candidates this evening. I want to echo that in my own way here in my remarks. I will tell you that we have a saying in Summit County at the end of all of our banquets. We say, drive carefully when you go home. The life you save may be a Republican. And we mean that. And in an urban county, we have no Republicans to spare. Coming from Summit County in Akron, Ohio, we have none to spare. So I heard the willingness of some to demonstrate their acumen in firearms if we can't settle it on Friday with the duel, but I don't want to participate in that, because I don't want to spare Ohio one single Republican, so I want to be healthy. And so, unless we're doing marksmanship and not shooting at each other. There we go. I like Alex. I'm listening to Alex's bio, and I said, that's my life, give it back. I too am the son of Greek immigrants. And Triantafilo is not a hard name for me to say. In fact, my wife, Maria Damaris, her mother's father was a Triantafilo, although they changed it in the 1940s to Trent. And so it's easier to say Williams, in fact, was Punawilliams before somebody thought that sounded like Williams. And so I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and when you are the youngest of 6 kids, particularly in a Greek family, you learn that everything is subject to debate. Everything is an argument. You want to, if you get a chance to go out to dinner, just picking the restaurant was an elaborative process that you had to think of in advance, and how you, especially when you're the youngest, because your voice is the hardest to hear. I used to always say that I was the last to eat but the first to talk, because when you're the youngest, the bigger ones always get to the food bowl first. And so I have that same experience, and I too, Alex, really proud of Greek American heritage. And while nobody else in my family went into politics as a profession, they are also very politically engaged all around the country. They are they're very concerned, like all of us in this room are, about the future of the country. The role of the Ohio Republican Party, we win in Ohio. This is now a red state. And I was talking to someone earlier, and it's thank goodness the Democrats have given up in trying to win in Ohio, that they spend their tens of millions of dollars in Arizona and Georgia and Texas and other states that they're trying to win over, Nevada, and they're leaving us alone, because those millions of dollars made it harder for us not only to win the statewide races, it made it harder for us to win the local down ticket races when they were spending money to get out the vote in Ohio. I'm happy to have that continue. Because having a head start, having that head start in elections is critical. But we can't count on that forever. I think in the past, of late, the chairmanship of the Ohio Republican Party has been pursued, not by my opponents here this evening, but by some in the past, as something to be controlled for the purposes of promoting individual candidates that we may individually prefer. In other words, to advance the political interest of a particular candidate or a set of vendors that would benefit their political interests. That is not healthy. That needs to stop. And if you believe that the Republican Party is a team, and that the stronger every player is on that team, the stronger we will be in defeating the real opposition, which is the Democrats and their liberal policies, we will be stronger. And so we have to have a chairman who is disciplined in that, who sees, as Bob Bennett did, that the Republican Party is a resource for all of our candidates to grow. You put a seed in the soil and you let them grow, and your party can be a part of that nurturing process that gives them the opportunity, and let the voters in our primary pick the nominees. As Bob McEwen so aptly said in a couple of meetings ago, a contentious meeting that we were having for the purpose of endorsements in the last primary. In a primary, it's the responsibility of the candidates to get themselves nominated. The party needs to have the discipline to stand down in that particular space, but it's the candidate's or the party's responsibility to get them elected in the general election. And I think we need more of that. And so when Alex, when you say the advice, I'll jump to, and I'm going to come back to my platform. But Alex, when you say that endorsements are divisive, you couldn't be more right. In Summit County, we never endorsed it until 2000, until the Akron Beacon Journal said to advertised a party rating scheme to have people vote for John McCain over George W. Bush in the primary, and then after the primary, run like hell from the party of Reagan and Nixon and back to the party of Roosevelt and Clinton. And we decided in Summit County at the time, well, if we're not going to sit back and let the newspaper and let the media have a front row seat in nominating our candidates, we need to make an endorsement. We've endorsed sparingly, about 25 times since the year 2000. Every party endorsement has prevailed, but you're right. It is something that needs to be done with discipline. It should always be done with the supermajority of the committee, because when you endorse, as we did in this last election, and you can only get 55% of the committee to endorse an incumbent office holder, that means 45% of the committee didn't share in that point of view. That is a dangerous and divisive. First of all, you're advertising weakness of your Republican incumbent. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. Secondarily, you're creating an environment where the candidate has to spend the next 2 or 3 months uniting the party, particularly those who are irritated by the fact that their political party got on the scale to defeat a candidate of their choice. Our bylaws invite this type of acrimony. Our bylaw on endorsements is written poorly, it's vague, and it needs to be changed. And in other areas of bylaw reform that I would like to recommend, and listen, the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party works for the committee. The committee doesn't work for the chairman. While it's the most important thing a committee can do, which is to appoint or elect a chairman, the chairman must always remember that it's the committee that governs and makes the decisions. So the recommendations I'm going to make to you now are just my best political judgment after 30-some years of experience in the political process of what can create good bylaws to make us strong, and good bylaws that will help avoid conflict. Another one of the areas of bylaws reform that we need, so our bylaws are currently silent where they shouldn't be, vaguely written in areas where they shouldn't be, and they even contradict each other where they shouldn't. We have two bylaws that exist within the bylaws, and one in one section, another, that have two exactly different dates of when we should organize and elect our office holders. Well, one of them has to go. One of them has to go. We can't have two. That is a conflict that just, it's, first of all, it's not even logical, but now it also sets up conflict. I believe that the chief financial officer of the party should report directly to the governing committee, the state central committee, rather than to the chairman. Why? Just like in a public sector finance where you have the superintendent of schools reports to the board and the school board treasurer reports directly to the board, you do this for fiscal accountability and transparency. One of the things I've talked about with so many of the committee members is transparency. You have to have transparency in your heart. It has to be the way you do business. I have that as a way I do business. But in addition to the desire to have transparency, when you have a person who's the chief financial officer whose responsibility it is to report directly to the committee, it will grow the confidence that we have in the transparency of our financial record keeping, and so that our donors will want to give money, and so that our committee members are satisfied, and so that our candidates, our office holders, don't think we're using the office for the purpose of helping one candidate over another candidate in a competitive place. I want to let you know that if I'm elected by the committee, I pledge to all of you and to the committee members that I will give the job the full-time attention that it deserves. It is not a 40-hour-a-week job. The travel and everything else, it's a 50 and 60-hour-a-week job, to be sure, and I will stop doing the things I'm currently doing. I will stop representing the associated builders and contractors immediately, a job that I've enjoyed doing. As I always tell people, they're more Republican sometimes than the Republican Party because we promote free market competition. We are the association of Adam Smith and Milton Friedman, and we're fighting sometimes where Republicans refuse and are not brave enough to fight. But I'll stop doing that to lead the party, and I'll also step down as chairman of the Summit County Republican Party so that I can give this job the full-time attention that it deserves. Thank you. I will follow the bylaws willingly, even if I don't think the bylaw is the wisest idea in the world. I will follow it willingly, and I will not sit up nights and figure out ways to skirt or circumvent the bylaws. I will work, as I said before, for the committee. I think we need to establish a platform committee. We, as Ohio Republican Party, need to put down on paper the policies in Ohio that are the overarching policies that we as Republicans stand for. As Jimmy said, we can never count on the media to make our case. They, along with our Democrat opposition, will lie about us every chance they get. We need to put on paper to tell everybody this is who we are, this is what we stand for. And if you believe in these principles, you're a Republican too. Now vote like it. It will help us go out and win over voters, particularly amongst the young folks. It is also important for us to have it so that we can tell our elected officials, our public officials, the overarching principles that we expect them to represent us on. This is a Democratic Party. We have 66 elected state central committee members, and they are elected throughout the state. This is a well-qualified group to create a platform committee so that we can tell our elected officials what we stand for so that they don't get lost. In Summit County, we are a blue county. We win 57% of our offices are currently held by Republicans from top to bottom of the county. That's something I'm proud of. When we first started tracking that, it was in the mid-40s. But we've worked hard to fill the ticket and to win the school board races, the township trustee races. I have been a public official and I've been a public administrator. I've been in private business. Every year, I go out door to door. I walk in parades. I put on the t-shirt of candidates at the local and state level to help them. I love going door to door for the purpose of challenging and figuring out the new technologies. I stay equipped and educated on the modern techniques, whether it's digital advertising and targeting, whether it's direct mail, all sorts of, because your state party chairman needs to know those techniques in order to marshal the resources in a credible way. And I will use those best practices if you elect me. The sign says it's time, so I will thank you all. And I just, like I said, I will give you my best experience. I've raised millions of dollars. I believe I've raised more than anybody who's in this race over the past 30 years directly, and I will put the fundraising experience to benefit as well. We'll spend the money wisely, we'll be transparent about it, and we'll have bylaws we can all appreciate. Thank you very much, and if anybody has any questions afterwards, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
So those are our 5 candidates. 66 people have the decision, so say a quick prayer for them. And if you have any input, your Butler County State Central Committee members are Gary Cates and Patty Alderson. And I know there are a lot of State Central Committee members here, so if you have a moment, you want to ask them a question or kind of bend their ear a little bit, or talk to these candidates. I know Senator Cates had a comment he wanted to make. Let's give Gary another round of applause for this. Coming up like he's on The Price is Right.
I have a few things I want to say, in no particular order, just as it comes to my memory. First off, there's food back here. Feel free to take home wherever you want to, because I'm not taking any of it back. I want to thank Senator Lang for buying the pizza tonight here. I think there's still some over there. It might be a little chilly, but enjoy it. I want to thank how this all came together here was a phone conversation I had with Mark Murphy on December 8th. He called me and said, "What do you know about the people run for State Central Committee?" And I told him at that time we only had 3 people in the race there. I said, "Here are the people running." And something triggered my mind there. And I called him back and I said, "What would you think if we put together a candidate meet and greet in Butler County?" And that's how this came together. And so it's through teamwork, and Mark Murphy and Ann Becker have been wonderful to work with in organizing and planning this event for us. And our just last minute appointed timekeeper, Bob Leshnick, kept this thing going here. So I want to thank Premier Shooting, Kelly. Come here, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Kelly has been wonderful to work with. We started putting this together with the fine details and everything. And I couldn't have found a better partner to work with. And so tonight, when my pen exploded in my shirt, I had to do something. So she said, "There's a shirt over there for sale." She said, "A membership will go fine with that also." So anyway, if your pen explodes tonight, $10 will get your shirt there. I want to thank my colleagues who are here from around the state, State Central members. If you're a member of State Central, please stand up to be recognized, because some people have driven a long way to be here. The Warners are here, Laura. But these are members of the State Central Committee. These people have been making And I want to thank everybody here from Butler County, because that was our original intended audience. Is a lot of times we don't have the best communications from the state to the county level and vice versa. So the whole point of having this was to allow people who serve on our central committee in Butler County to get a chance to meet these fine candidates, because one of them is going to be the next party chairman. The only thing I ask for these 5 candidates is whoever's elected, don't make this your last trip here. So we want to see you again. I want to thank these 5 candidates here. 4 of these people have driven great distances to be here. Alex had the shortest drive. I get lost in Green Township every time. It's the streets are counterintuitive. But, you know, for instance, Gene's here from Lorraine County. That's not an easy trip. Dale's here from Lake County. I'll tell you how far up north that is. Some years ago, I was asked to fill in for speaker to be the Lincoln Day speaker at Lake County. Remember that? Absolutely. It was bad weather and so forth. And I had only intended to go as far as Columbus that day, and I got the word that afternoon I'm going to Lake County. Let me tell you how far that is. When I drove from Lake County to get back to my home that night, I realized I could have driven from Nashville home sooner. That's how far it is. Jimmy comes from Southeast Ohio, and Brian's also from Summit County. But I applaud each of these 5 candidates for stepping up to do this. It's a hard job. It's a thankless job here. And one of you are going to be the next chairman. And I want to thank you for being here. This is the only gathering of all 5 candidates prior to Friday's vote. And some guy in late, but that's okay. We just went from 3 to 5 to make this work. And thank you for everything you've done in putting this together. You helped me with this, and Mark. I'm sure I've forgotten something else I want to say here. But thank you for being here tonight. Each of these candidates have graciously agreed to hang around and to take comments from you, questions. And again, thank you. This turned out pretty well. Thank you. be on YouTube. Please bear with me. We're going to link this up so that people who couldn't be here tonight can watch this.